Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for new stories from Yellow Cat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's get started. In your experience, what is the most memorable instance of a "you have no power here" moment? Part 8. I used to work at a supermarket that accepted Western Union payments. I would gladly call for a manager so they could tell me the same thing I said every time someone insisted that I try to do things that were illegal or impossible. At that time, our managers refused to give in to customer pressure because Western Union was a serious business. Examples: they didn't have identification and were attempting to pick up money. People have actually tried to give their food stamp card to me as ID. They were using an expired ID to try and get money. I'm unable to return the money to the sender because they sent it to the incorrect nation or state, and the system won't let me because of various procedures and fees that differ depending on the location. I declined a customer's request to send $3,000 to their grandson who is incarcerated in Nigeria, or for some other ridiculous reason we've all heard a million times over. Since their name is spelt incorrectly on the transaction, I'm unable to give them their money legally. Their tracking number was missing from them. There isn't another way to access the transaction as of late 2013. They wanted to use their credit card to send money. Only cash and debit were accepted. This wasn't allowed. It was impossible to override. When I didn't have enough money, they were trying to pick up several $1,000s in the morning and somehow expected us to find the money. Please do yourself a favor and refrain from adding Western Union services to your store if you're a store owner. The possible marginally higher revenue is not worth the suffering, extremely long lines, and irate customers. I was part of a lighting crew at a fancy winery in North California setting up for a function. The owner of the winery was an absolute pickle. While one crew worked to set up the stage, the San Francisco Philharmonic was performing at this event. The location of the mixing board, the one that enhances the orchestra sound, seemed to have offended the winery owner. He insisted on having it placed in the back. The job foreman informs him that this is where the mixer is supposed to be in accordance with the contract he signed. "It doesn't," the prickly one snapped. "Are you claiming that I'm lying? Take that F off my land." Everyone could hear this since it was loud enough. With a courteous turn, the foreman blew a loud whistle and announced, "Everyone, we've been kicked off the property. Set whatever you're holding down and make your way to your cars." At least a dozen men and women halted at that moment, put down the object they were working with, and gestured to the parking lot. The sphincter angrily exclaimed, "I kicked you off, not them." The cool response was, "I'm the foreman. This is a union crew, and they're with me." There would be no stage without the crew, and there would be no orchestra without the stage. He gave in. Without the orchestra, the event wouldn't have happened. During my brief tenure as a wedding photographer, we had the worst case of golden child syndrome I have ever seen at one wedding. The bride and groom were friends of mine, and the bride was the most adorable girl you could ever meet. Her sister was a different matter entirely. Despite the fact that it was her sister's wedding, she could not fathom that this was not solely about her because she was the preferred child. I get the families up on stage at one point so I can take what I think are the most uninteresting yet important family photos. Alright, the one with both families, with just the parents now, grandparents today. In any case, my sister keeps attempting to enter pictures when I don't want her to, and it's not right. She's politely told to sit with the rest of the family, and I promise to call her back if I need any specific photos. Remember that she was also the maid of honor, so she had appeared in practically every photo up until this point. After completing the family photos, I asked the bride and her parents if they would like any additional family photos, as I occasionally get requests for headshots of the grandparents or parents. Since the bride and groom loved having beautiful family photos, I usually obliged. The golden child's sister now comes. She charges the stage, striking a model pose.
Take a photo. Hi there, the maid of honor is me. I also deserve to be photographed.
Became extremely demanding and impolite toward me. I was done. I turned to face her, offering what I believe was the first dose of reality she had ever received. You're not the wedding's main attraction. That's your sister. She and I are not servants to you. Develop adulthood, get off the stage, and if I need you, I'll give you a call. You can choose the photos when and if it's time for your wedding. Proceed now. She sulked off the stage, looked stunned, and vanished. Parents didn't say anything, just looked shocked. The bride and groom both smirked silently. The groom approached me at the conclusion, gave me a hug, and expressed how much it meant to see GC step down. I told the bride I was sorry, that it was just a spur of the moment, and that I was sick of watching her sister try to make her look bad at her own wedding. The bride gave me a hug and exclaimed that it was amazing. Seeing her receive her moment when she deserved it was encouraging. To be honest, I doubt that anyone has ever opposed GC before. I worked here as an engineer many years ago. I wanted to be a leader, and one of the managers wanted to hire me, but some bad managers who were above him and his peers told him I didn't have enough experience. After 6 months, I was hired by a much better company at the level of job I was looking for. Got a lot more money, and they paid for almost all of my masters. I'm having lunch with some coworkers about a year and a half after leaving, and one of the toxic vice presidents walks in. I really couldn't remember his name, and I thought he might have been one of my college professors. He came over to talk to me when he saw me. I had to really ask him his name, but he knew mine. He seemed surprised, but he asked me if I ever wanted to work for the company again because they were looking to build a new team and do some R&D. Felt great to say thanks, but no thanks. I learned that the business unit lost almost all of its leaders within the next 12 months because they were so bad at their jobs. There was a man who would park in the disabled bays, taking up 2 bays at the private parking lot where I worked without wearing a blue badge. Every time we gave him a parking ticket, he would repeatedly ignore it. In the end, the business went to court and obtained a court-mandated ban on his car. In essence, he was forbidden from going into the parking lot and would be arrested for trespassing if he set foot on it. Since he continued to disobey the ban, the company filed an application to have the car towed. The police were called repeatedly, but they were always too slow to respond, and by then, he would have already left. While we waited for his car to appear on the ANPR system, we had a tow truck nearby on standby. Ding! When I see his license plate flash, I text the tow truck. As we wait for him to get out of the car, this truck pulls up. The truck quickly locked the wheels, raised the car onto the bed, and deployed the crane. As soon as the owner arrives, the driver begins stripping the car down. My managers and I are standing there, letting him know that his car has been towed for trespassing, leaving the car unattended, etc. The tow truck's pulling out and police are heading over. He gets right into talking about how it's a public parking lot, etc. False! With a few sheets of paper, we show him the laws, regulations, and court decisions that he had disregarded. We also serve him with the court county judgment that required him to pay well over £7,000 because he believed that private parking companies were illegal and how Facebook was his source of facts once the police arrived. The company was able to claim the logbook and auction the vehicle to recoup the unpaid tickets because his vehicle was left unclaimed due to the high cost of recovery and storage. That day, the guy received a solid kick to the teeth. The police detained him for trespassing, his brand new car was taken away, and a judgment was filed against him, ruining his credit for the next 10 years. For the sole reason that Facebook told me I could do what I want. Do you have a story about your most unpleasant neighbor or homeowners association HOA? Part 8. I was somewhere between 5 and 6 years old when all of that took place. Due to the fact that I was too young at the time, my parents shared this information with me not too long ago. At some point in my childhood, it appears that the neighbors on the opposite side of the street had rented out their home to other people. A couple, or what appeared to be more of a family, was one of the people renting the property. They only knew of a sleazy father, a strict mother, and a suppressed daughter, but they were certain that there were more people living in the house. My parents told me that they had no real idea how many people were actually living there, despite the fact that they were sure there were more people. Apparently, the family would occasionally place orders for enormous quantities of carpet, silver cutlery, and small statuettes on postpaid, but they would never pay the bills. This was the situation that occurred. It appears that my parents frequently overheard arguments from across the street regarding that matter, and you could literally see the mess that resulted from all of the items that they ordered but never paid for through some means. The situation became more complicated when they began signing the bills not on their own address, but on the address of my parents. This led to them having a disagreement with the manufacturers of some statues that had an oriental appearance regarding who's responsible for paying for their own service. In the end, it appears that they paid for it, but not without doing so with a great deal of hesitation. In addition, my parents informed me that the landlords had a difficult time collecting rent from them, which resulted in the landlords receiving a letter of eviction, which they refused to comply with. The situation came dangerously close to being brought before a judge with my parents serving as witnesses. However, in the end, things turned around, and the family vanished as quietly as they had appeared. Since that time, the landlords have moved back into the house, and they're very laid-back neighbors. I'm kind of glad that I was too young to notice any of that. The reject hall pass monitors are at it again. The hypocrisy of our board has been a source of contention for us on multiple occasions. Conflicts of interest, to be more specific. Due to her bullying of residents into signing a counter petition, a petition was circulated with the intention of removing the corrupt board. However, the petition did not receive sufficient votes to be implemented. Consequently, the board is now going after anyone who signed the petition. The management company informed the board of the individuals who signed there. My wife is a Buddhist adherent. Unfortunately, every single place that we've lived has had a homeowners association, HOA, but none of them have ever bothered her for adhering to her rituals. If you're a Buddhist, your home serves as your meditation and prayer space. It's not possible for your shoes to enter the house. Our home is located in a condominium complex that has 18 units. Every single unit has a spacious alcove. In our secluded space, my wife and I always leave our shoes. Due to this, an S-storm has begun, and there are threats of fines. As a result of our religious observance, we were required to go to an appeal, and for the fourth time, we had to explain that this was due to religion. The hypocrisy of the board members who keep things in common areas was brought to our attention. The areas where we keep our shoes are not considered common areas because they're not cleaned, and they continue to redefine what constitutes a common area and what does not. The president lied to us about who filed the complaint. We have a recording of her telling us who filed the complaint, and they signed an affidavit claiming that they had never filed a complaint. The rule that they are attempting to enforce is one that is extremely ambiguous and open to interpretation, and it consistently shifts in order to maximize their own personal gain. We're represented by an attorney, and we have previously issued a cease and desist order to the president. It appears that she's now sending her lackeys to pursue us. We've communicated with every single member of the community, and they are extremely enraged. We informed them, both the board of directors and the community, that we will not be paying their fines and that legal action will be taken against them if they continue to be bigoted and cause harm to the community. Edit. I thought I'd share with you the rule that they're enforcing. Under no circumstances may anything be changed, removed from, or stored in the common elements without first receiving the appropriate written approval from the board of directors. Simply put, they're choosing to be D-heads despite the fact that they have the ability to write the permission slip. Happened many years ago. I lived in a neighborhood that was very similar to others and had a homeowners association. The homeowners association held monthly meetings that residents were not permitted to attend, as well as one annual meeting that residents were permitted to attend. However, during those meetings, they never discussed anything other than election-related matters. Obviously, the majority of people were clueless about what they were doing. One of my neighbors was the treasurer of the organization, but he was not a member of the board of directors. When it came to leaking meeting information, she did a pretty good job. After one meeting, they came to the conclusion that they needed to inspect people's backyards by going into their homes. They were under the impression that they were entitled to it because there were regulations concerning things that were visible in the backyard and could be seen from the road. As a result, they believed that they were entitled to the backyards of everyone else. It would appear that the issue of trespassing was brought up, and they stated that they have the authority to enter the property of anyone at any time. My neighbor inquired about the consequences that would be incurred in the event that someone was bitten by a dog that was aggressive, or someone's pet ran away because it had escaped through fenced gates. It would appear that animals that escape from their owners are not a problem for them because they should be secured onto the property, and if they were to get bitten, they would file a lawsuit against the owner. For this reason, individuals need to have a solid understanding of the laws that govern their state in terms of both criminal and civil actions. Both of them are distinct. After my bout with the HOA, I criminally trespassed all of them from my property. In accordance with the CC&Rs, board members are not permitted to invade your privacy or trespass onto your property at any time. Defend yourself against HOAs that are ridiculous, or any HOA for that matter. In light of everything that had transpired, we decided to remove all of the board chairs at the subsequent annual meeting and replace them with other individuals. The first modification was that the monthly meetings were now open to any and all residents of the community. If you want to watch the part 7, click the link here. We're very, very glad to see you all in the comments again. Many, many thanks for your support.